Chapter 5 of The Mandalorian is out. The Book of Boba Fett. I really enjoyed today's episode, but let's be honest, that was an episode of The Mandalorian. I guess I'm not all that surprised. There were rumors that the Book of Boba Fett was being referred to as The Mandalorian Season 2.5. But still, it's a little odd that we got an entire episode of the Book of Boba Fett and we didn't see the character a single time. Whatever, I'm more than happy to look past that because I had a blast watching everything that happened. It was an episode full of action, world-building, Easter eggs, comedy, and pathos. I love that the episode didn't waste any time bringing us back into the Mandalorian's world, and without Grogu, he has gone right back to bounty hunting. I've been curious to see what he'd be up to after the child left. Ever since Grogu came into his life, Din has been set on a path towards becoming a better person. Grogu was his moral compass that drove him to be better and to serve a greater purpose. But Luke took him away, and I saw that as a test for Din to see what he would do without the child. Would he continue to change, or would he fall back into old habits? And the answer is, he's going right back to his comfort zone. The only difference is that he now has the Darksaber, which makes him even more violent. In that way, this chapter is still very much thematically linked to the Book of Boba Fett, because we're still talking about change. We're talking about two bounty hunters that wear Mandalorian armor, and they're both being called to a higher purpose. Boba Fett has chosen that for himself. Din hasn't. Everything he did was in service of Grogu, and then he got the Darksaber shoved in his hands. That comes with responsibility whether he wants it or not. At the moment, he's rejecting that responsibility and using this sacred weapon to cut the heads off of lowlifes. I'm sure Bo-Katan has a lot to say about that. I brought up power and how people choose to wield it a lot during the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. Weapons and gear and Beskar armor are like a Mandalorian's version of the Force. It's power, and you can choose to use it selflessly or selfishly. At this moment, Din is choosing to use the Darksaber, which is the weapon of a Jedi and the greatest symbol of Mandalore, for selfish reasons. I think I'm going to have a lot more to say about that in the coming days. But for now, let's move on to the next major sequence on the Star Wars version of the Halo ring. Din has tracked down the only two survivors of his previous Mandalorian covert, the Armorer and Paz Vizsla, and it was so much fun getting a Mandalorian history lesson. We got the answer to the question we've been asking since Bo-Katan rejected the Darksaber in the last episode of The Mandalorian, and it was pretty much what we all guessed. She accepted it as a gift before, but Mandalore was attacked and devastated by the Empire under her watch, which was absolutely thrilling to see as some Terminator-style flashbacks. So the survivors are all now a superstitious bunch that blame her for the curse. There is no way anyone will follow her again if she doesn't take the Darksaber the supposedly right way. Speaking of the rules and the way, Din has to face some harsh truths himself. Paz Vizsla challenges him for the Darksaber, which I knew was going to happen the second he brought the hilt out in front of that dude. Obviously, the descendant of Tar and Pre Vizsla would want to get a hold of that thing. Din still beats him, but not with the Darksaber itself. There's some talk of him fighting the blade and it becoming heavier with every swing, which is some really interesting and very fantasy-style storytelling I look forward to digging into. But the Armorer asks Din if he has removed his helmet for any reason, and he answers honestly, which leads to him being rejected as a Mandalorian. Not forever, there is a path to atonement on Mandalore, but for now he's out. I was kinda hoping Din would confront the Armorer about how he didn't know he was raised in a cult after seeing Bo-Katan and the others, because I think the Mandalorian series is going to not only be about power and how it's wielded, but also communities and acceptance. There isn't one right way to be a Mandalorian. They are united by their home and their common goals, not by the rules they follow. The same thing happens in every community. It happens in the Star Wars community, where people will insist that true fans like these movies and they don't like those movies, which is absurd. It happens in humanity as a whole. There isn't one correct way to live, and I was hoping Din would push back against his rejection, but he's not quite there yet. So, his kid's gone off to college, he lost his ship, and he just got fired from his job as a Mandalorian. He's clearly going through a midlife crisis, so he might as well go to Tatooine to build himself a hot rod, right? I love that he has to take the bus now, and just like on a bus or train or plane, you're gonna have the kid in front of you turn around and stare, which is such a mundane, real-world thing that made me smile seeing it in Star Wars. But the moment just reminds Din of the child he's missing, and fortunately before the armorer gave him the boot, she did make him something out of Beskar for Grogu. It looked like chainmail. The bulk of the rest of the episode is spent with Peli and Mos Eisley. She summoned Din there because she claimed she had a new ship for him, which is, of course, a bit of a scam, but she's got an N1 starfighter that they refurbished together, and with the help of a BD unit, which absolutely made me scream for joy when it appeared. I love Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order to death. We got the official announcement of the sequel just yesterday, and today we are truly blessed. This entire episode felt like a perfect blend of existing Star Wars elements. Mos Eisley ties us to the original trilogy, the N1 Starfighter ties us to the prequels, the Darksaber ties us to animation, BD-1 ties us to video games. I love it all. Building up the starfighter takes about 10 minutes of screen time. I think I'll expand on this in a future video, but the N1 is a symbol of Din's new life, or at least the potential for one. I still think he will eventually leave bounty hunting behind him, like Boba Fett, but we can see in this episode that he's holding on to that life. His desire for a new Razor Crest is because that ship is connected with bounty hunting. He had a cargo hold with room for like 4 frozen bounties in that thing. Why would he want an N1? Where would he put his bounties? How is he going to do his job? Oh well, he thinks he'll give it a shot, and he does start to get invested in this old ship that's becoming something new. Just like his armor was symbolic of a clean slate for him in Season 1 of The Mandalorian, he strips most of the paint off of his new ship. I think the all-silver ship, besides just looking cool, is meant to be a parallel to Din. He's still skeptical, but Peli convinces him to take it out for a spin, and wouldn't you know it, he kinda likes this ship. Maybe this other potential life without bounty hunting has got some merit after all. He flies faster than he ever has before, soaring through Beggar's Canyon, which was so much fun. He was just flying around, and I had the biggest, dumbest smile on my face watching that entire scene. He takes off into space and flies alongside that commercial flight he had to take earlier. He's feeling independence and excitement and passion again. It's like hope that he can find happiness outside of Grogu. But I do think it's hilarious that there were immediate consequences to doing that. I was expecting him skimming the passenger liner was just for the sake of a cool Star Wars shot, and right when I was laughing in my head about how that would be super illegal in the real world, he gets pulled over by Carson Teva. Yes, I am so happy to see him back in the mix. I think he will be the avenue for us to hopefully learn more and more about the New Republic, which is some context post-Return of the Jedi storytelling could desperately use. I think it's interesting that the New Republic is around Tatooine, but they're not doing anything about the Pikes. Peli speaks for the regular citizens of the planet when she says the Pikes are scary and are taking over the planet. The New Republic is right there, and they're not doing anything. Why? That's not a criticism of the storytelling, because I think it's a plot point, and I'm happy to be patient for answers. Every question I've had in The Mandalorian has been answered given time. Why do Mandalorians all of a sudden never remove their helmets? They gave us an answer. Why didn't Bo-Katan accept the Darksaber? They gave us an answer. And not only did we get answers, but we got good ones that were important to the story. I have plenty of questions about the New Republic right now, but I will be patient and wait for the answers to be revealed. Din uses his Fast and Furious style nitrous to escape the New Republic officers and heads back to Peli, where we finally get a connection back to the Book of Boba Fett. Finnick shows up to hire him as muscle, and he agrees, but says he's gotta pay a visit to a little friend first. After getting something forged for Grogu, that doesn't surprise me at all, but with only 2 episodes left of the season, I hope that doesn't take too much time. I even kind of hope it happens off-screen, and then we can actually see it in The Mandalorian Season 3. Molly will kill me for saying that, and I actually do think we will see it on screen. I just don't want the Book of Boba Fett to completely lose its focus on Boba Fett. I feel very mixed feelings about all this, because I do want to see Grogu. I am excited to, I assume, see Luke too, see where they're training and how it's going, but there's still a lot of story left to tell for Boba. 1 chapter of the season focusing on Din, that's an interlude in a book. 2 chapters completely focusing on Din, that starts to feel like a straight-up interruption. But if it's as fun to watch as this episode was, I will not complain. However that plays out, I'm psyched to see more interactions between Din and Boba, because I do think the stories of The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett are thematically linked and linked well. Boba Fett has left hunting behind to become a leader. That's exactly the kind of example Din needs to see, because I think Din is basically taking over Boba Fett's story from Legends. He's going to become Mandalore and he will unite the Mandalorians, but that's not a change that happens overnight. It's a process and it's a struggle. Thematically, it's a very similar story to Boba Fett's. So even though Din completely stole the show this week, I still think it's very relevant to the Book of Boba Fett's themes of reinvention. But what did you think of Chapter 5? Let me know in the comments. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Book of Boba Fett coverage, and consider checking out our Patreon page for even more. We're releasing video reactions and audio commentaries for every episode as they come out. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.